finally, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Hitmonkey. Let's do it. How do you do, G-Pop crew? It's your Nutty Buddy Putty here, and today we're talking about the Hulu series, all 10 episodes. We're talking about Hitmonkey, ladies and gentlemen. Who's Hitmonkey, you might be asking? It's this guy right here. No, sorry, right here. This little guy right here. This guy here. This guy here. Hitmonkey, guys. Hitmonkey. We are talking about Hitmonkey. So before we get into this spoiler-free review, I want to break down exactly how this is going to work. Now, first off, if at any point you do like this video, make sure the like button, make sure the subscribe button. I will put timestamps in the bottom of the description so you can see if you want to look into the full breakdown of the Easter eggs, my final thoughts, or just the spoiler-free review, and you know where to stop also. So with that being said, I want to talk about why I think a lot of people are going to like Hitmonkey and why it's setting up for something I feel is going to be a lot better when it comes to Marvel in general. For those not aware, Hitmonkey is a very adult type formatted show. It is on Hulu Plus. It's not available on Disney. It is a Marvel character, and it is a Marvel show. So then you might be asking, is it part of the MCU? Well, no, actually. And here's the reason why I state that. I feel like what we're going to have is a more adult universe. And right now, they're throwing things out there like MODOK and Hitmonkey to test those waters. But that I won't get into until my final thoughts. I'll also get into future predictions when it comes to that matter as well. So if that's something you want to hear from me, I'll definitely have that at the end. But it may contain some spoilery stuff because I will be talking about the series when we get to that point. So with that being said, what do I think of Hitmonkey, and is it for you? Well, first and foremost, let me go ahead and explain the stylized animation of Hitmonkey. Understand, Hitmonkey, after watching it, I felt the style was more of like akin to like an anime, like an older anime, not Dragon Ball Z or Naruto kind of anime, but more maybe more of a Bleach mixed with Archer animation. Definitely has an Archer feel to it. And it definitely has a very violent feel, like something like Ninja Scroll, where they don't hold back from the gore. Another great thing is the comedy in this series. Jason Sudeikis is hilarious as Bryce in this show. I felt Bryce was a good addition, though I will need to explain later down the road why. But if you're not a fan of the comic book, don't worry. Bryce is probably going to be the reason why you're going to love this show, and Jason Sudeikis pulls it off perfectly. The relationship between Hitmonkey and Bryce is very enjoyable until we get to some moments later or in the middle of the series. But again, it really fits to the plot of what's going on to give it more of a dramatic feel. I honestly loved what they did. They put all 10 episodes out, full season out on Hulu Plus, and it's definitely something you should probably binge watch. Episodes connect very nicely, and the biggest thing I want to state is that I feel like this is a good launching point for something special, and I feel like you should probably get on the ground floor with this because it may go back to this in another situation, which again will be in my future predictions. So I was delighted with this show. I loved it. Hitmonkey was a hit for me, to coin the phrase. But the biggest thing I want to state is there's going to be some things that are fans of Hitmonkey and his origin story, not really his origin story, but just his comics in general where he's appeared. They may get a little bit upset, but understand if you understand where it's going and you listen to my future predictions, then you'll be like, okay, I'm kind of on the same boat as you are, and I'm very excited. So, with that being said, I suggest you guys go watch Hitmonkey. I'm not sure if they're going to do episode by episode in the in other countries, because I know that it changes when it comes to the more adult-oriented shows like MODOK, where they put episode by episode out, which is unfortunate for people in other countries where they don't get the whole season like I did. I don't know if that's the case with Hitmonkey, and if that is the case, then definitely make sure you save this video and come back, because I'm going to go in depth with some stuff that's going to be very enjoyable to think about, as well as it will enrich your idea of what's to come, again, with my future predictions and my Easter eggs. So with that being said, I loved it. This was amazing, and I really want to jump into the Easter eggs and jump into the spoilers. So with that being said, this is your spoiler warning. If you just wanted to hear the review, this is definitely my review. Amazing. Go watch Hitmonkey. I love it. But I have a lot to talk about it when it comes to characters and it comes to future predictions. So let's get started with that.
Oh, hi. Deadpool here, and I guess this is how I get to be part of this episode. Like, I'm the one that made Hitmonkey popular. Like, I have my own. I have my own action figure with Hitmonkey. This is my action figure. It says Deadpool here. It doesn't say Hitmonkey here. It says Deadpool here, and he's part of it. But no, I don't get to be in his series or even part of his review or anything like that. Like, I'm the one that introduced him, and you'd think that I would just. Oh, the monkey's here. I need to go now because I don't like that monkey.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was not expecting him to show up. Honestly, I was very, very happy that the monkey jumped in and scared him away. Sorry about that, but at least you know that spoilers were here. Anyway, so today we're going to jump into what is the Easter eggs, and there's a lot. So I'm actually going to go through episode by episode and talk about each episode. And if there's really no big Easter eggs, I'll just talk briefly of how I felt. Now, briefly, I'm going to go over episode 1. And episode 1 is the origin episode, the pilot episode, and it did great. It was probably the closest to the comic book than they ever put in there when it comes to the origin story of Hitmonkey. Little loose things, especially with Bryce, because Bryce was not like that way, or like the character they portray in this show, but he's definitely much different than he is in the show, or the comic book, I should say. In the comic book, they call him the Unknown Assassin, so he didn't even have a name. But we're going to come back to that because I feel like they did this for a certain reason, which is going to pertain to what I think they're going to do for future shows on Hulu as well when it comes to Marvel and their selective series. Oh, and before we exit episode 1, this is the episode where he gets his iconic shades. And if you know Hitmonkey in the comic books, they're pretty iconic. Now, as I stated earlier, I just want to briefly go through the episodes and get to the major Easter eggs or combination to the comic books. But I will state that episode 2 is when they go away from the comic books and you start to see why they have their relationship with Bryce and Monkey, which is what we're going to call him from this point on. But Monkey in the comic books did have Unknown Assassin, the ghost that was attached to him, but that didn't last long enough. That was something that was only there for a moment, and then he started going into Deadpool and the Howling Commandos. And honestly, again, I just want to be brief. I feel like the Bryce thing was something that they needed, and so it's not really an Easter egg. It's more of, understand, the future will probably make Bryce a better character, especially with other characters that could possibly quite get involved with this series. Next, we have episode 3, the casino episode, where it's the drunken monkey, and what's enough to say? This was a delightful episode. This was one of the high ones when I was giving ratings that I gave it an 8. I gave episode 1 like a 9 because I felt like it was a good origin story and they did nicely with it. This was probably my favorite episode. Outside of later episodes, more because of the geek side, but outside of the comic book geeky side, this was probably my favorite episode when it came to establishing a connection between Bryce and, of course, Monkey. And now we move on to episode 4, and we have finally a character from the comic book. This is Fat Cobra, and he uses chi just like Iron Fist to make his fist strong. I really like Fat Cobra, and I like him because he has background stories with Wolverine in the comic books where they've actually teamed up together. But Fat Cobra is going to come in later on as well several times. I will state this was an awesome introduction to him, and a lot of people don't know who this character is. So I was very happy to see they enlighten a character like this. This is where I feel the Hulu series of shows like MODOK and, of course, Hitmonkey are going to really flourish with new characters that they get to play with. Next, we have episode 5, which is the appearance, or the first appearance ever, of Yuki. And Yuki is a descendant of the Nails group that was actually the woman assassins that killed for the Hand. And I actually was really surprised in how they did Yuki. I really liked the way they did Yuki. She's a beautiful character, and definitely would make some great imagery when it comes to this character. But I love the chemistry that Yuki and, of course, Monkey has in this episode and in the later episodes you see later, with some other characters that we'll talk about. So it was awesome to see her, and I hope to see her in future episodes of Hitmonkey as well. And then, of course, episode 6, Lady Bullseye. Now, for those that aren't familiar, in the comic book, the actual character that was in this part was actually Bullseye from the comic books going after Hitmonkey. But apparently there was some kind of situation where Marvel is not allowing them to use Bullseye because of the Daredevil series or the Daredevil TV show, so on and so forth. They had plans for Bullseye. So they allowed them to use Lady Bullseye, and I'm very happy they did this. This was a nice change of pace in my eyes. It was made it a little bit different, and then also gave Bryce a little bit of a backstory about how his relationship with females might have been after his initial relationship with his wife and his daughter. So you could see how much it changed him and how much he went for the bad girls, I guess you could say. Next, we go into episode 7. Now, episode 7 is way more of a heavy episode where we've established relationships with the police officers, with all of them, and it gets more of a darker approach when we find out people are dying, the tribe situation with Hitmonkey going back there. And then, of course, this picture right here where he's actually finding out that Bryce is actually a demon. And at the same time, we do see what could possibly foreshadowing to Season 2 and Mephisto. Now, the reason I say this is really awesome is because if you understand the whole world with Disney and Marvel, they cannot in any way use satanic presences when it comes to advertising in China. But when it comes to series, they can be a little more loose, especially with Hulu. So I believe this is how they're going to bring Mephisto into Marvel a lot easier, is through stuff like Hitmonkey, to where they can use devil things and more demonic things. And so I think this is foreshadowing that Bryce might be involved with Mephisto, especially with the end when you see Bryce come back and he states that he had to make a bargain. I think he made a bargain with Mephisto, and this is foreshadowing to when he's actually going to have to pay the piper. And Hitmonkey was seeing this prior with, I can't remember his name, but the guy that was actually showing him that he controls everything. So yes, I think this is Mephisto. Tell me if I'm wrong. It does have yellow eyes instead of red, but I think it varies when it comes in the comic books. But again, I think this is Mephisto. Then, as I stated before, when I don't see an Easter egg, I'm just going to go briefly. But 8 definitely was one of the more deeper episodes where we do find out about Bryce's past. And also, we see that Monkey goes back to where his tribe was to find new tribes there. But unfortunately, his life just does not allow him to live a life as a regular monkey anymore. Then there's episode 9, and of course what we'll get to is episode 10, both called The End Part 1 and The End Part 2. Now, I want to talk about the Bonsai Master you see here. When I first saw the Bonsai Master and he turned around and I saw his eyes and I saw his chest, I thought he was actually the Bushmaster, because there's no Bonsai Master in the comic books, unless there's this one I couldn't find myself. But I'm familiar with the Bushmaster, and I figured based on his eyes, they looked very reptilian for me to think that maybe this is another version of Bushmaster. But now I actually don't know, because he's a samurai. I don't remember Bushmaster being a samurai, so definitely fill me in the comments below if you know some information about this that I may not be aware of. And then we have Silver Samurai. Well, we have a lot of backstory on Silver Samurai, but I'll just say this. He was in the Wolverine movie with Hugh Jackman. He was in the original cartoon. He was in the Marvel vs. Capcom video game. I'm sure he's been in other stuff I can't think of. Silver Samurai. He's been in a lot of Marvel/X-Men stuff, and he's also in Hitmonkey. Thank you. He worked in this perfectly, especially with the fist with the Fat Cobra. The fight. I said fist, the fight. Let's go to episode 10. And then, ladies and gentlemen, episode 10, which quite possibly has my favorite Easter egg reference or anything. As you see here, Fat Cobra is holding Hit Monkey in his hand, and he's telling him, we're going to perform a fastball special. Now, if you're not familiar with the fastball special, you probably heard from it the original X-Men comic, but it's very, very popular in the X-Men comic, the X-Men anime series, but it's very popular in the X-Men comic. It's where Colossus would pick up Wolverine and throw him towards a building. More popularity, he would actually throw him at a Sentinel's head so he can slice and dice his head up, which was the main spot or main component to keep the Sentinels going. So to see them utilize the fastball special, and I think Bryce was the one that actually says fastball special, it was amazing. Or they both said it. Either way, fastball special. That just made me giddy as a kid and everything, to see them do the fastball special that was made popular by Colossus and Wolverine. Thank you, Marvel. That's just freaking awesome. So now we get into my final predictions. And see, the thing is I think what they're setting up here is they're trying to figure out if the more mature subject Marvel series are going to be hit off, because maybe they're still trying to figure out, based on MODOK and Hitmonkey, if this is something that people want, and we need you guys to want it. Because here's my thing. For those that aren't aware, the reason I had Deadpool appear during the spoilers, and why I showed off the Deadpool action figure with Hitmonkey, is because Hitmonkey is a prominent character. Well, not prominent, but he's been in a lot of Deadpool comics, and a lot of people were more introduced to him, as myself, to Hitmonkey in the Deadpool comics. So it was really good to see this series happen, but of course we didn't get Deadpool in here, which probably was a lot of upsetting for a lot of fans. But I feel like they're waiting, and here's why. Here's my first prediction. I think that if this is successful, they may not bring Deadpool in, but they may start hinting to it in the next season. And so I think what they're going to do is produce the relationship with Bryce and, of course, Hitmonkey, and then just broaden that and see how well it goes, especially if the first season, this season, is successful. But then prediction 2 for future predictions is that what's going to end up happening is if this is successful, they'll make a Deadpool series. And that Deadpool series will introduce Deadpool and get his powers, so on and so forth, and give him that first season. And then they can actually combine both Hitmonkey and Deadpool together. And that actually is a part of my third prediction, where I think maybe they'll introduce Deadpool in his own series and then combine it. And what makes it great is MODOK actually has history with the Howling Commandos, which Hitmonkey was a part of. And with that, they could combine MODOK as well and bring Hitmonkey into MODOK, bring Deadpool into MODOK, bring MODOK into Hitmonkey, bring MODOK into Deadpool, and bring Deadpool into Hitmonkey, or bring Hitmonkey into Deadpool. I know it sounds crazy, but they could potentially make their own little adult universe in the animation world on Hulu, because, well, Disney owns Hulu. And honestly, that's it. I was really, really proud of how they systematically set up Hitmonkey. Again, some fans might not be happy with the way things were set up, especially not seeing Deadpool, things of that nature. But honestly, I think it's well worth it. I think it's going to help out for future plans when it comes to Hitmonkey and the Marvel Universe on Hulu. So with that being said, I want to thank you all for watching. Again, if you enjoyed my review, my predictions, my Easter eggs, then make sure you go and hit the like button. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. And as always, I'm Putty, bringing you the news and hopefully get some views. Hey, that's a nice little outro. Anyway, guys, I'll talk to y'all later.